I'll put myself.
So, Hare Krishna, everybody. This is Shikshastika. This is a new series. This is a premiere of a new series called The Vedic Observer or Śāstra-cakṣusā, which means seeing through the eyes of Scripture. And it's with my good friend Andy Frankel, aka Sankirtan Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Welcome, Sankirtan. He is an award-winning author and disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And with us also is Alicia. She's from our Kirtan Center group, and she also is a regular on my Nectar Devotion Zoom class, which happens on Tuesday night and Sunday night. But this particular this particular event here is going to be weekly, every Friday night, and it's going to be called the Vedic Observer or Shāstra-cakṣusā. It's a Sanskrit term. Chakshush means seeing everything through. And Shāstra-cakṣusā means seeing everything through the eyes of Shastra, which is a Sanskrit term which means scriptures, transcendental wisdom literature. The intention of the podcast is to help devotees see the world in that way. It's see through the eyes of the scripture or see through Krishna's eyes. And to make Krishna consciousness relevant to the public arena. And this is co-hosted by New Vrindaban's longtime resident, award-winning author, thespian, Andy Frankel, aka Sankirtan Das, a disciple of Abhaytrans Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, whose house uh, used to be the setting of Prabhupada's 1976 discussion groups that he held when he was in New Vrindavan almost 50 years ago.
Yes, I'm very fortunate to
Yeah, oh my God, it's a
reside
holy
in the
place.
house that Prabhupada used, and he gave talks on the front lawn. I was also fortunate enough to be at one of those talks almost 50 years ago. I've been here in New Vrindavan that long.
Well, that is really excellent. That's why you are the authority, and we're so fortunate to have you as an eyewitness. When Prabhupada, we had our 50th anniversary there's a lot of 50th anniversaries going on now.
Mhm.
Prabhupada's 50th anniversary of coming to America happened in 2016, and they set up a program for in Butler, and Bhakti Marg Swami walked all the way from Butler from Boston to Butler because he walks all over the place. And they had all of the Prabhupada disciples talking in the hall there up in Butler, Pennsylvania, where Prabhupada first landed. And it was so nice to just hear these eyewitness accounts from all these, you know, eyewitnesses. And some of them are passed on now, even, from 2016, like Krishna. Um, who's that black-bodied woman from Cleveland, Krishna Nandini?
Um,
She passed away recently of cancer.
yes, it's very
She had a
devoted.
Muslim husband, and my wife was impressed with her. Um, she's not very impressed with anything that I do, but she was impressed with her. So that is a kind of like a great tribute.
Mhm.
So anyway, we have to take advantage of the association of all those devotees that were available when were around when Prabhupada was here. I mean, when Lord Chaitanya left his body, or no, he didn't leave his body. He entered into the body of Tir. How did Lord Chaitanya leave? He entered into a murti of Krishna, right?
Hang on over here.
And so um, when he left this world 50 years ago, 50 years after that, there was so much confusion in ISKCON or in the
I'm
Vaishnava
sorry.
community because everybody was confused and they started going off on their own tangents. And So they had to have a guru to set it all straight. And the Goswamis had written all this literature, but this is about the same time period as Lord Chaitanya. And so when everything was in shambles, he actually well, Nityananda was gone and Lord Chaitanya was gone, but Nityananda's wife was still around.
Mhm.
Her name was Jahnavi Devi,
Mhm.
and so she got all the Goswami literature together and had a big festival, and all the devotees were there, and he she got it all together. So I don't know why there can't be women gurus, because there was one.
Yeah, she was a very exalted personality. She was honored as a spiritual teacher.
Yeah,
She gave initiation, I think, to a couple of
she was
people
a
at the time.
disciple of Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami was her guru.
One thing I wanted to mention is that that festival in Butler, Pennsylvania, that was in 2015.
Oh, it's
Prabhupada actually
2015.
arrived in America in
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah,
2015
yeah.
in
2015.
September
I
of,
filmed that, but I'm so old I can't even remember my date.
and then he established, that was in 1965, he arrived in September. And it was almost a whole year later, in July of 1966,
He
that he
established ISKCON.
established the ISKCON.
Yeah,
The
as a corporate incorporated ISKCON in New York City in 1966.
so this year actually is the 60th anniversary of Prabhupada's arrival, and next year will be the 60th anniversary of the founding of his international society, ISKCON.
It's also going to be the 250th anniversary of America. Prabhupada wrote a very wonderful piece. Actually, he did an interview with the Back to Godhead magazine on the 200th anniversary. I remember the 200th anniversary. I'm showing my age now, but I was living in Wisconsin. I remember the bicentennial, and Prabhupada did an interview with Back to Godhead magazine in which he was talking about the real meaning of dependence and independence. And the title of the article, the BTG interviewed him, and he said the title is Declaring Our Dependence on God. That was the title. And he talked about immigration, actually. He said when America was first founded, all the immigrants, um, well, the Europeans, they came here and they said, this is God's property. We have a right to live here. And so the Native Americans, they didn't even have any idea of proprietorship. They just thought that this land belonged to Wankantankan.
Mhm.
Wankantanka is a great spirit. They didn't this is my land. They didn't have any idea of that.
Mhm.
And that's the way that in India, it's like that too. You don't have there's not an idea when Vrindaban, when Krishna went from Gokul to Vrindaban village, they picked up and moved because there was so much disturbance in the Gokul. And so, but they didn't have to ask permission to go to
Mhm.
Vrindavan. They didn't have to, sign a lease or anything.
Yes, historically, the America was expanded by this phrase called manifest destiny.
Now, who
In
made
which
that up?
I don't know who, but from very early on, I think in the 1820s, the Congress actually created a law based on the Vatican's declaration several hundred years earlier that only Christians really had the right to own property.
Oh my God. That's just like, the only people that were able to vote in the early America
Hmm.
were white people, and the women were not even allowed to vote. And
Oh.
the vote, the black people were only considered to be, three-quarters of a man or two-thirds of a man. They were
But
completely
the
human.
white people, you people had to be property owners
Property owners, right?
to
Yeah.
vote.
see this whole idea of property ownership, Prabhupada just really made fun of that. He said, so after the Europeans came here, they were they said we're God's children, we have a right to be here. Okay, fine. You can stay here, the Indians didn't have any problem with that. And then but then after they established their America, they claimed the property as theirs. And then they said, okay, well, now nobody can come here. So
Well,
that,
it was still pretty open in the late 1800s. Massive amounts of people were coming until the early 20th century, the latter part of the 19th century, the early part of the 20th century. Basically, the doors of America were open. The
yeah.
only thing you needed is that you needed to have proof that you were going to be employed once you got here.
Yeah,
So
well, they had in the early
that
days, I think they had the thing called homesteading. You could, as they moved across the western part of the continent, you could set up a place and you just have that land as your farm. And Prabhupada said, well, why don't they do that? Okay, India or China is very crowded. Why doesn't the American government say, well, you can come here, we have plenty of land.
right.
If you go to New Jersey is supposed to be the most populous state in the country, but there's massive amounts of farmland. Prabhupada said there's no such thing as overpopulation. He never believed in that. He said it
So,
doesn't exist. If you go to New Jersey, you'll see miles and miles of country land, and that is per capita the most densely populated state in America.
yeah,
But
the
there's like
Vedic
hardly anybody
principle,
anywhere.
the Vedic principle was that people had a right to go to whatever kingdom they wanted. Uh,
Right.
Prabhupada, and so when the Yudhisthira and the Pandavas established Indraprastha, there were people from all over the world, practically speaking, especially all over India and to coming to Indraprastha to because they wanted to live there. So the in the Mahabharata, it's explained that a person before they got married, they needed to choose a suitable kingdom where they would abide by the instructions of the king, and they needed to have a suitable occupation to generate enough money, and only then could they get married.
Oh, really? Well, the thing is, they have the same thing as in India. I mean, when it's been that way, that you could have your place of land, and Prabhupada acknowledged that you could make money off of that place, but then you'd have to give a little bit of tax to the king.
Mhm.
And otherwise you could set up your shop anywhere. So, but here's the problem, in America, they say, first they say, okay, this is, we can come here because we're God's children, um, and now they got there and they say nobody else can come. Even though on the Statue of Liberty it says, give us your huddled masses, your poor longing for freedom, and blah, blah, blah. That doesn't exist anymore, especially in 21st century America. No one is
It,
allowed here but white nationalist Christians. And so, Prabhupada said in the 20th, in the bicentennial, he said, what is this philosophy? First of all, you say, um, this is ours and we have a right to live here. But then you actually, after you establish yourself here, said this is our land and nobody else can come here. And he said, what is that philosophy? And BTG said, no, it's no philosophy. He said, it's rogue philosophy, roguism. And so this is the philosophy they have now. There's, I brought a young lady from the airport last night that was caught in the airport overnight, and I got up early in the morning and brought her to the airport this morning from to New Vrindaban. So she's a refugee. She could be deported at any moment, and that shouldn't be. I mean, this is God's property, and this is God's land. It's not our land. And so that's what Prabhupada was talking about when he made the peace formula back in 1966, and he passed
and
it out in front of the
the
United
original
Nations.
principle in America, like I said, in the end of the 19th century was all you needed to come here was proof of that you're going to be employed, that you
Yeah,
had
you
a
couldn't be
job to
like
maintain
a
yourself.
slacker, or
And
just
so, and then also, as far you mentioned the taxes, and the Vedic culture and Mahabharata, it's explained that the citizens can be, the tax could be about 25% of your profit. So
25%.
that's pretty high. That's pretty,
That's actually, it depends on your tax bracket. They have a progressive income tax, but back in the
yeah.
Eisenhower administration, I might be old, but I'm not that old, but I don't remember the Eisenhower administration, but the upper 1% of that class of income holder makers, the millionaires, they were
Hmm.
taxed at 90%.
Right. There was very severe tax in those days.
And that's how they built the Eisenhower Expressway, which is 70, that goes through the panhandle of West Virginia all the way to
Right,
the West
70.
Coast. And they
Hmm.
built the Grand Coulee Dam and all these infrastructure that actually laid the foundation of America, and they built the middle class. And Eisenhower was for unions. I mean, that the Republican Party is just non-recognizable now compared to what it used to be. Even Nixon, he created the EPA, and that he would be considered a communist now, Nixon. But it's just amazing how fast and Kali Yuga is going downhill. So let's
Hmm.
just start here. We can start with this verse. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Uh, the format of tonight's discussion is going to be the rise of oligarchy. We're going to try to discuss like current events so that we can get people engaged in trying to see the way things are happening right now through the eyes of Scripture, and also try to you know, um, make Krishna conscious relevant to the public arena. If we don't understand what's going on in the world, if we're not paying attention to what's happening in America, and if we're not trying to make it relevant, then we'll just be living in our own separate um, realms. And but preaching means you have to listen to each other and communicate with each other. And so there is a rise of oligarchy. This current administration has never seen as many oligarchs in this current administration and actually millions of years ago, Srimad Bhagavatam warned about this type of mentality. Swayambhuva Manu was one of the original kings of the earth back then, and this was millions of years ago. And Kardama Muni was sitting on his hermitage, and he wanted to get married, so he brought his daughter Devahuti, and they got married. And but anyway, he was warning the king. He said your kingly duty is to pay attention to the world situation. He told Swayambhuva, he said, if you gave up all thought of the world situation, unrighteousness would flourish. For men who hanker only after money would be unopposed. Such miscreants would attack, and the world would perish. So what we're seeing right now is that the dismantlement of all of our institutions, which were originally meant for the king. The king has a right to make taxes, and it's compared to like the rain. It takes the taxes. The rainwater is coming from the ocean, and the ocean distributes the rainwater again on the land. So he has a right to, but he has to distribute it again and not put it into his pocket. But when you have an oligarch means those who are taking all that money and putting it in their own pocket. So they're destroying all these agencies and defunding all of these uh, governmental welfare organizations. For example, USAID. Have you ever heard of USAID, Prabhu?
Well, yes, but the thing is that Prabhupada also comments on this. Uh, I don't have the quote in front of me. I could get it for next week maybe, but Prabhupada mentions that there's so many big industries, and there's only a few people who are getting wealthy from these big industries, and everyone is being exploited, having to work for the few people that are just getting wealthy. And
Right,
so
exactly.
Prabhupada explains this is not real freedom. That when you have a mass of people serving a few people who are getting wealthy, and so this is a very important concept because a lot of people appreciate capitalism, but the thing is, we we're living in a society where capitalism has run amok.
Oh, yeah.
It's perverted. It's no longer real capitalism. And when people don't want socialism, basically the people that are benefiting from any type of socialism that the government is providing are only these wealthy capitalists.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, it's like that in communist countries too. In the communist countries, they say for the people, the state owns everything, and it's according to the need of the people they can get. But Prabhupada completely turned that concept on its head by saying this is spiritual communism. And Krishna consciousness means that Krishna owns everything, not the state. But even in a communist government of these the people there are only a few rich people and everybody else is like a slave indentured servant. Just like you said, there's only a few corporations. Now the title of this particular um, topic that we're talking about is oligarchs and the death of journalism. And so 50 years ago, or even like 20 years ago, there were 50 different corporations that were in charge of all of the media outlets, 50 different ones. And now there's only six. Six media corporations. There's Comcast, there's Disney, who owns ABC, and there's only a few. And
well,
so that they're getting smaller and smaller.
even in New York City, where I grew up, this is back in the 1920s and 30s. There were over 30 newspapers just in New York City alone.
Yeah, yeah.
So all of this is being consolidated into the hands of a very few people who now are manipulating and controlling the news.
Well, see, this is what he's talking about in this article about oligarchy. He said that prior to Ronald
Oh,
Reagan,
I'm sorry, whose article is this?
this is Tom Hartman's
Oh,
article,
okay.
Oligarchs, Outlaws, and the End of Journalism, and Reagan's real legacy. See, this is the post-Reagan revolution, and 40 years ago, or 45 years ago now, almost, and Ronald Reagan. Um, He did a breakup of all the merger laws. You know, they used to have laws that you couldn't consolidate all of the wealth in a few different companies. You know, so they had antitrust laws, and
Mhm.
the government was very strict in not making it so that's a disadvantage to certain, like the little guy that wants to have a startup business. And so they had breakups. You know, they broke up like Ma Bell. Remember Ma Bell? There was a
Mhm.
big AT&T was called Ma Bell, and they broke it up into little different companies. And so that no longer Ronald Reagan got rid of that. And so now there was mergers and acquisitions. And so now it's everything is big conglomerate. Pretty much pretty soon everything's going to be owned by Amazon, I think.
Mhm. I'd like to introduce a couple of Prabhupada quotes
Sure.
because, in our discussion, it borders on economics and on politics. And so a lot of devotees, they may be critical. Oh, we shouldn't be talking about politics. But, in the Vedic literatures, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, uh, there was that Ram Raj, for instance, the rule of Lord Ram, that is also falls under the category of the political arena.
Can we
And
get like another guy named Ram to rule everything? That would be good. I mean, why can't we have that instead of the current
and
administration?
you know, and then in the Mahabharata, when like I mentioned Yudhisthira earlier, when he and his brothers established Indraprastha as the capital of their kingdom, Narada Muni comes there, and of course, Narada Muni is one of the 12 Mahajans, that he can give spiritual knowledge very readily, very easily. He travels all over the universe giving spiritual knowledge. But when he came to Yudhisthira's kingdom, and that Yudhisthira was just beginning the rule at Indraprastha, he gave 100 points on how to rule the kingdom. And
100 points.
these were very
Yudhishthira
practical.
or Narada Muni gave 100 points.
Yes, Narada Muni gave Yudhisthira 100 points on how to rule,
Oh,
and
okay.
even after the
This is in the
Bhagavad
Mahabharata.
Gita. Hmm?
This is in the Mahabharata.
Yes, this is when in the section when Yudhisthira, after they build the Indraprastha, and then
Well,
of
why is
course
it called Indraprastha? I knew they had a big assembly house. It was a very, 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 very beautiful place, right?
yes, and that was built by Mayadanava
Yeah,
because
that was a nice crib.
he owned Arjuna. Arjuna spared him,
Oh,
uh,
yeah, that's right.
and he owned owed Arjuna a favor. But Arjuna said, you know, Mayadanava was grateful that Arjuna spared his life. He came to him for shelter, and so uh, Mayadanava asked, "What can I give you in return?" And Arjuna says, "You know, I can't accept anything. This is my duty,
Oh,
and I can't accept. I'm only performing my duty. I can't accept any gift or any favor from you just because I'm performing my duty as a Kshatriya." So but Mayadanava kept insisting.
uh,
And so Arjuna says, "Well, you know, if you want to please somebody, please my friend Krishna. Ask him what type of a favor you can give to Krishna."
you're supposed to give everything to Krishna anyway.
No, but anyways, he turned to Krishna and he said, "Well, what can I do for you?" And Krishna says, "You know, Yudhisthira has just built an extraordinary city, but it needs an assembly hall. And you are a great architect. Why don't you come and build the assembly hall for Yudhisthira?" So even Krishna didn't want to accept any favors. He referenced giving Yudhisthira the ultimate favor. So a politician or a leader has no right to take advantage of their position and get some extra kickback for what they're doing for the benefit of the public. This so all of these understandings of how the dynamics of leadership work and the sacrifice that a leader has to actually make for the people, they're
Yeah,
not there to manipulate the public or to benefit from the public or to benefit from their office, but they're there to serve the public. And
right.
that's what we're not seeing today.
We're not seeing that. We're seeing the exact opposite. I mean, they're getting a huge multi-million, $400 million plane from Qatar. And they're getting if they sue them frivolously, they'll give them millions of dollars and then give them like 50,000 million dollars for airtime to promote them. And so it's just a big pay for play scheme. And there nobody's working selflessly. I mean, the rules of government are that if you're a servant, they actually have laws on the books in the Constitution. There's one called the Hatch Act. You're not supposed to benefit from your office.
No gifts.
No
No
gifts.
God.
It's called the emoluments clause, actually. And you're not supposed to be benefiting, and but that is all out the window. And
Mm,
it's just like a free for all now. And they're suing all these different the reason this topic is called the death of journalism is because back in the day in the kingly days all the land barons would try to please the king in order to get favors. So they'd give them some uh, they would give the king some money or some land, and the king would favor them. But the king's not supposed to do that. The
mm,
king is supposed to work for the citizens. They're supposed to take care of the citizens
exactly.
like a father will take care of their children. And that's a selfless thing. Like there's nobody more selfless than a mother's love for their child. And so we uh, we have gone so far away from that, but now it's kind of like the me generation in the 80s. They called it the me generation. The 80s were like greed is good.
Yes, greed is good.
Yeah, that was the
That
catchphrase
was the
back.
big slogan
Yeah,
amongst
I
the
mean, it
industrialists.
actually goes in cycle. I heard Tom Hartman was talking about there's an 80-year cycle. Like, for example, there's a big war, and then there's a reconstruction, and then after the reconstruction, um, there's like kind of an enlightenment period. Like it happens every 80 years. Like in World War II, they reconstructed after World War II, and then you had like the 60s, the hippies movement,
Mhm.
and then after that was the 80s, and that was like everybody is like materialistic, and then after, there's another war.
Yeah, this happened actually, the dynamics you're talking about also happened right after World War One, where
Yeah.
in the 1920s there was a movement they were called the Lost Generation. They didn't know what to do. They've survived the war, and there are a number of writers actually, like Herman Hesse and Somerset Maugham and a fellow named his last name was Hilton, I think was John Hilton. He
Mhm.
wrote the book on Shangri-La, Lost Horizon. But all of these authors and many other people, they were searching, and these three particular authors, they went to India,
All
and
right. Yeah.
they even lived in ashrams in India. So one of them wrote The Lost Horizon. Somerset Maugham wrote, I forget the name of the book that Somerset Maugham wrote about his experiences in India. It's, it was a book about someone going to India and living in an ashram. And then there was Herman Hesse, who wrote many books, Siddhartha and Journey to the East.
Oh yeah.
So there is this mindset that I've survived the war. Why did I survive? So many other, and so those survivors, they're questioning what they've come to the purpose. What is the purpose of life? They
Right.
want to
And
know.
kind of like have a mystical experience, just like in the 60s,
Mhm.
after the Vietnam. Well, actually, it started even earlier than that. After the Civil War,
Yes.
they had, my favorite authors were Emerson and Thoreau, and they
Yeah.
were kind of like 19th century hippies because
Right.
they didn't want, they didn't, they, Emerson or Thoreau would look around at all the farmers in the New England area, and he thought these people are working too hard. It's like Sisyphus rolling a big boulder up the hill and it just rolls back down on top of
Mm.
it. And
And
so he wanted to simplify his life, and he had an experiment in self-sufficiency, just like in New Vrindaban. It's like an experiment in the old way of living, where you'd live off the land and just
mm.
be part of nature, and you don't have to work so hard. So he got some little land on Emerson's property, and he started growing some soybeans. And
Mm.
but he
He
was
was
an
living by
abolitionist.
Walden's Pond.
Yeah, Walden's Pond. And the name of it was Walden and Civil Disobedience. You know why it's called Civil
Mm.
Disobedience? Because he didn't, he was a hippie and he didn't like the abolition. He was an abolitionist. So he wasn't into giving the government money for slavery. And so he refused to pay his taxes, so he got arrested. And he threw him in jail for not paying his taxes on the property near Walden Pond. And so Emerson, his buddy, went to visit him in jail. He said, "What are you doing in jail?" And Thoreau said in so many words, "What are you doing out of jail? Like all the cool people are in jail, you know." And
You know,
so,
the same phenomena occurred also after World War II, that the beatniks arose.
oh yeah,
So
yeah,
the
Thoreau,
beatniks was a much smaller movement than the hippie movement. It was going along the same lines. They were anti-materialistic.
yeah.
They were searching for the answers of life, and that segued the beatniks segued into the hippie
The
movement
hippie
by the
stuff.
1960s.
You chronicled that in your piece, hippie, the Dylan and the hippie movement,
Mhm.
the
But
Christian.
you know, I wanted to read a couple of quotes because we're bordering on the political arena, and so many devotees might object.
Yeah,
These are just two quotes of Prabhupada. There are actually many quotes, but I just wanted to share two quotes with you today. One is from a lecture in Los Angeles in 1974. Prabhupada says, we can take part in everything: politics, sociology, anthropology, so many things they have discovered. We can take part provided that by taking part in that department of activities, we advance our Krishna consciousness. So
yeah,
Prabhupada is saying that, and this is my mood, is that we're not talking about politics. We're injecting the Dharma and the universal principles of Dharma into the political arena,
yeah,
into the social arena, so people can get a better understanding of what's going on and what are the responsibilities of the leader, how to behave, how to incorporate the universal principles of Dharma into our society. So
yeah,
we're not taking sides, political sides.
yeah. It's
We're
not partisan.
injecting the Dharma into the political arena.
Just like devotees are not supposed to take, we're not supposed to take the association of materialists. We're supposed to give them our association because we're speaking on
Exactly.
behalf of Krishna. We're not speaking on our own opinion. We're
But
speaking Krishna's opinion.
the people that are criticizing are more involved in the political arena than we are.
I know. Well, that's kind of like they call that. There's a special reverse phrase for that. It's called psychological projection.
Let me read you the other quote. And I'm sorry because I don't have the reference, but I can have that next week. Prabhupada says, the king is the seed to the welfare of the citizens from all angles of vision, of social, political, economic, and the spiritual upliftment for the people of his kingdom.
He's the seed. Is that what you said? Seed?
No, the king is to see to the welfare.
Oh, to see. Okay.
Yeah, to see, not seed, but the king is to see to the welfare of the citizens from all angles of social, political, economic, and spiritual upliftment.
Right, exactly. I mean, there otherwise, you have to have all of the aspects of human life. Otherwise, the citizens will not be happy and they'll rise up and you won't have a king anymore because you have to, just like a parent will take care of the children. I gave that example before. Uh, uh, a real leader is one who can take care of their children and provide for all of its needs. That's why a king is actually a Rajarshi means uh, what does it mean? A king, God and saintly, or God, a king and godly representative of
Rajarshi,
God
yes.
in the king. You're supposed to be a saintly person, and the king actually he's a part of the Kshatriya class, but even above the king is the Brahmana class. The Brahmanas are supposed to be advising the king in order to
Exactly.
manage the society. And so, without the Brahmanas are supposed to be the head. They're advising the king, just like Narada Muni advised King Yudhishthir all these different points of how to
Mhm.
manage the kingdom. And so I remember, like I think it was Ridananda said something about like this society that we're living in now, it's like a boat without a captain or a ship without a rudder. And it's like the boat is being tossed on the waves, and where is it going to end up? Because it doesn't have any guidance,
Mhm.
doesn't have any navigation. It's going to end up on the rocks.
Prabhupada actually compared a society without a proper leadership as to a stone boat.
A
That the
stone
stone,
boat. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I remember that.
it's going to sink. It's sinking very rapidly.
Yeah, actually made a meme out of that. There's a stone boat. I actually got a picture off the internet. A stone boat. It was like sitting on a dock somewhere, but how's that going to float?
Right.
And
So we
uh,
need
without a
the
head.
proper leader and the king needs guidance from, like you said, from the Brahmin community.
Exactly.
So the Brahmins, the thing is, the Brahmins intentionally keep themselves uh, in a poor condition.
Yeah.
Then, because they don't want to take a salary. They
Right.
want to give advice and they don't want to be influenced by
Hmm.
somebody who's going to bribe their decisions
Yeah,
or
they're kind of aloof.
sway. So the decisions that the Brahmins are making are based on Dharma, based
Yeah.
on the four principles of Dharma: the uh, truthfulness, compassion, internal and external cleanliness, and self-sacrifice. So,
Sacrifice. What are the four ones now again? Self-sacrifice,
well,
cleanliness,
truthfulness
and
is
truthfulness.
very important,
Yeah, yeah. Like
and compassion and
compassion.
internal and external cleanliness,
Yeah.
and the last one is
Now
self-sacrifice.
that is Dharma. Those are the principles of Dharma,
These
according
are
to
the
what?
four legs. Just like the
Oh,
cow
okay.
has four legs, these
Now
are the
what the sinful
four.
activities, they actually attack those four legs, right?
Well, for instance, like the sinful activity that attacks compassion is animal killing.
Right.
And so Prabhupada explains that animal killing is the most dangerous thing that can degrade a society. Prabhupada has numerous quotes about what happens when animal killing is prominent in the kingdom. It's very degrading, and the morals of the society can break up very easily. And of course, truthfulness, everybody understands the need for truthfulness.
Well, there are certain people that don't understand. I mean, the thing is, Bhumi, the goddess Bhumi, the Mother Earth.
Mm.
She once said, she said, I can bear the weight of many, many heavy things like mountains and oceans, but I cannot bear the weight of one liar.
Mm. No,
So,
this lying mentality is going to destroy the society.
have you ever heard of a philosopher named Hannah Arendt?
Yes, she's
She
a
said
writer.
about lying, she said, you can't base your whole government on lying because then after a while, the public doesn't know who to believe anymore, so they can't make any decisions, and the democracy is destroyed. And it's also, like when you base your governance on lying. Mark Twain, he also said it's easy to fool people, but it's very difficult to convince them that they've been fooled.
Yes, I'm familiar with
Just
that
try to
quote.
argue with somebody who believes that the election wasn't stolen or that global warming is a myth, is not a myth, or that Barack Obama created ISIS. You can't. All these conspiracy theories are made up by whole cloth, and so nobody knows what to believe anymore. And
No,
so,
right. People are very confused.
yeah,
And
they
that's
don't know.
why that's why
But that's the
devotees
goal of the
need to
goal.
present the dharmic principles to help the public understand the dynamics of what's going on right now.
I have a sign, in front of I have some beautiful hibiscus flowers in front of our house. They're
Hmm.
huge. They're like 9 inches in diameter. They're blooming in full bloom right now. Though Malati said that those are appropriate to give to Lord Shiva, hibiscus, and they're the only ones that the deer don't eat. But I took a picture of my yard sign. I have a yard sign now. It says "Prevent truth decay." When we lie, then democracy dies.
The thing is about the dynamics of the political culture is all politicians and what they're all to one degree or another are greedy.
Yeah,
And they've all over the last decade since not decade, but I would say like you mentioned earlier in the 1980s when the whole uh, the greed is good slogan arose,
yeah.
people started to kind of cheat and establish the greed as the motive, their own satisfaction as the motivating factor to
Well,
advance in
that is one of the
society.
gateways to hell, is it not? The
Yeah, so
lust
that's
and
what's
fear
happening
and
since the
greed.
1980s was gradually the in the last 40 years the moral fiber and the economic fiber and what capitalism really means has totally fallen apart. And now and both the Republicans and the Democrats contributed to that degradation, that deterioration. And so so
Yeah,
this
there's
is very important.
yeah, there are so many things that they've lied about simply for their own aggrandizement.
You have a quote?
Yeah, I'm not going to share it now because we don't want to like read.
Okay, we're almost finished with our conversation, I would
Yeah, well,
imagine.
this is almost it's like 6:51. So actually, Alyssa, are you there?
Well,
Yep.
people can,
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, do you have any questions about because we're going to wrap it up here.
I wanted to go back to what Prabhuji Sankirtanadas was saying about, nobody knows who to really believe because everybody's just lying all the time, and that's why the devotees really need to I guess educate people on the principles of Dharma, and that the principles of Dharma are fourfold, just like the legs of a cow. So I wanted to kind of just go back to that because I'm so new to Krishna consciousness that I don't really even understand the principles of Dharma. So can you explain kind of, why we would be turning more towards that to kind of I guess save us from what's happening in Kali Yuga right now?
yes, the Kali Yuga is a total degradation of society and eating away at these four principles. Like I mentioned, there's the four universal principles of Dharma, and Prabhupada actually talks about that this is the basis, this should be the basis, and it was at one time the basis of all cultures all over the world. And as the Kali Yuga advanced, then the principles of Dharma started to degrade more and more. And so now we're looking at a situation where people are in great anxiety and great confusion because the government, the leadership, is actually supposed to protect the people on many different levels. So one obvious level is protection by maintaining a standing army. But the citizens are also supposed to be educated very nicely so they can have proper work. People, we all have different propensities. We all like to do different things. So Prabhupada explains that the leaders one of their duties is to help make sure that everyone is working according to their particular inclination, their particular propensity. So we all have something to contribute to our culture and to our society. And so the dynamics of Dharma are a wide, has a wide effect. And so there's truthfulness, compassion, internal and external cleanliness, and self-sacrifice. Those are the four principles of Dharma. And Prabhupada explains these very thoroughly in his literatures. There's even one book out about the teachings of the Dharma, that it's collected writings of Srila Prabhupada. But
Isn't that the four principles of Dharma? Aren't that the four legs of Dharma, the bull?
is it the bull or the cow? Yeah, so Kali, at the beginning, at the dawning of this age, Kali, the personification of Kali, was beating both the cow and the bull. And the one leg that the bull had left was the leg of truthfulness.
Oh, that's
Uh,
going fast.
and so, yes, in the Kali Yuga, we're 5,000 years into the Kali Yuga, and these qualities, these morals are deteriorating very rapidly. And the only thing that will stop it and bring back Dharma is what we refer to as the Yuga Dharma, the sacrifice for this age, which is the chanting of the Hare Krishna prayer.
Yeah.
So the more people that begin to chant, then the greater impact it will have to reawaken our consciousness and to reestablish the principles of Dharma. And
Yeah.
that's the
The Kali
mission of
Yuga is
Chaitanya.
this is supposed to be this Lord Chaitanya's movement of the chanting of Hare Krishna is supposed to be a little tiny golden age in between the vast ocean of faults, which is the Kali Yuga. And so if it says that if you're not floating on that ocean that Lord Chaitanya overflood the whole earth with, then you're not going to be delivered for millions of kalpas.
Mhm.
You know how long a kalpa is?
Uh,
4.2 billion years. So that's a long time. So you have to take advantage of that benediction. But Kali Yuga, I was reading from the I think the Vishnu Purana or the Padma Purana, and it's kind of like a description of the end of Kali Yuga. You know, it's going to last for another 10,000 years, this miniature golden age. But then after that, everything's going downhill. And so it says at the end, people will be living in the forest. They'll be so harassed by their government, they'll live in caves and they'll have tree bark as clothing. And they'll only be about 4 feet, 5 feet tall. They'll only live to be about 30 years old, 30 or 40 years old at
mhm.
the most, and they will eat their own children.
Alicia, do you have any thoughts on, you know, any personal experiences or thoughts on the different issues that we're discussing?
Oh, so many. I don't know. It's so vast. I don't even really know where to start. I guess
Mhm.
I was wondering how I was listening to what you guys were saying about the way in our 20th century how time has kind of shown that like after these huge world wars there's always these like subcultures of like people who kind of like turn to the east for self-reflection, like after the First World
Mhm.
War there was Herman Hesse and everybody else that were, doing all of their things. And there was the beatniks. I'm not really sure where they came in. Can you talk about why that portion of your conversation is kind of significant as far as like the development of psychology and like where we're at when things like shift from war to peace and war to peace and back again? Does that make sense?
Well, war is such a
Pardon.
horrific thing, and people that live through war, in ancient times, And even up to the Napoleon era, the wars were between two armies, and they were all agreed to fight. They didn't impact innocent citizens. No, no towns or cities were attacked. The fighting armies, they went to some place where they wouldn't impact anyone, and so then the people can live in relative peace. But since the Civil War and more apparently in the 20th centuries, wars are directed at innocent people, and they're being killed. And this is a great crime. And it's again, it's against the principles of Dharma. If you want to have a fight, all the people who want to fight, let them go someplace, have their fight, and not affect anybody, any innocent people. But that has totally deteriorated in the 20th century. So war has become a very horrific thing rather than just between two opposing forces who agreed to be there in the battle. So it's a great, great calamity that we are experiencing for maybe for the last 200 years, that this attack on innocent people in the cities has seeped into our culture. And people think, oh, it's all right. No, but it's not all right. It's totally against the dharmic principles.
You know, the king in olden days, they were supposed to be at the front of the army.
Right.
And now, like, for example, I think one of the best anti-war songs ever written was Masters of War by Bob Dylan.
Mm,
Said,
yes.
you come, you masters of war, you builded big guns, you that build the death planes, you that build the bombs, you hide behind walls, you hide behind desks. I just want you to know that I can see through your masks. In other words, they hide. You fasten all the triggers for others to fire. You sit back and watch as the death count gets higher.
Read the last stanza. That's so powerful.
Oh, I know. I mean, this is the most. I mean, he wasn't even on the train of the anti-war movement. He was his own man. Joan Baez wanted him to join the anti-war movement, but
Mhm.
he just made this up because he created these lyrics. But it's the most powerful anti-war song ever written, in my humble opinion. And I hope you die, and your death will come soon. I'll follow your casket to the by the pale afternoon, and I'll watch while you're lowered down to your deathbed. And I'll stand over the grave till I'm sure that you're dead. But the one that before that, every single verse is um like you've thrown the worst fear that can ever be hurled, the fear to bring children into this world, for threatening my baby, unborn and unnamed. You ain't worth the blood that runs through your veins.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, every single verse is like devastatingly powerful. And he didn't want to join by us. She was on the bandwagon. They had all those anti-war songs back then, but he didn't want to have anything to do with it. He was like an independent thinker.
Right. One of his songs says, "Jokers on the left of me, fools on the right." Here I am stuck in the middle.
Yeah, that's another song I think from the 90s or 80s.
Yep.
But yeah, there's definitely, that has to be brought back, that kind of like commentary on the situation. They wrote so many things back then in the 60s, um, and there was a movement, but you know, if you're really true to yourself and if you're listening to God, God is the one that's actually the inspiration to everyone. And if it's to the extent that that's pure, then that will be remembered by the mankind, the history of Christianity, for example, Jesus like plowed his message into the um, the consciousness of this world. And so a book or a song or a poetry or whatever it is, any kind of artistic presentation, only lasts as long as its purity. Okay. Alyssa, you want to say something?
Yeah, here, I'll turn my camera on. So, what do you guys think if Prabhupada was here today? I mean, what do you think he would say as a response to the religious national warfare that's going on with Israel and Palestine? Like, because as far as Dharma is concerned, all of the Vedic Shastras, all of the Vedic knowledge was before biblical religions emerged. But when you look at the Bhagavad Gita, you see that, I mean, it is, it's in the Gita that it says, from millennium to millennium I come back when there's a drop in religion and
Mhm.
people forget, so at some point Krishna did come back in his various forms and these Abrahamic religions were established, but look what they've evolved into,
Mhm.
so
Krishna is
what.
back today in the form of his holy name. And so Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that he comes time and again to protect the pious, to annihilate the miscreants, and to reestablish the principles of Dharma. So one way to help reestablish those principles is we need more and more people engaged in the meditation on the Hare Krishna prayer. So that's why it's so important for groups like yours in Pittsburgh to get together, and gradually it's going to grow into something very substantial.
It is growing in Pittsburgh. I mean, they're
Mm.
ISKCON Pittsburgh, they're going to build a temple up north on the north side. Did you know that, Sankirtan?
No, in Pittsburgh,
Yeah, Shamasundar's got plans, and it's going to be
wonderful.
unique in America because it's going to be exactly according to Vedic architectural standards or
Mm.
Vedic. Yeah, everything is a science in the Vedas. And so he's going to build a temple based on those specs. It'll be one of a kind in the world, and at least in the Western world. And also there'll be a Govinda's restaurant because this is just like a takeout place, in Lawrenceville, veggie takeout
Well,
buffet,
that's
veggie buffet.
important. Some people are more comfortable going to a center rather than to a formal temple. So
Right.
both are important.
Yeah, you could still have the thing down in Lawrenceville. I mean, that's in a great location. We didn't want to lose that location because it's right next to Pete Pitt
Ah.
and CMU. It's kind of like the Carson Street of Lawrenceville, except without the drunks and the gun violence and the fireworks,
Mm.
because they're having a big problem with the
Yeah,
drunken
South Side's really
South Side. You don't want to
deteriorated.
go to South Side because after the
Yeah.
bars get out, there's like hundreds and hundreds of teenagers come and right when the bars get out and they just cause trouble. They shoot off fireworks and guns and it's just a mess. But Lawrenceville isn't like that. But everything everything is going downhill fast, it seems like even in Pittsburgh.
I
Uh-huh.
got a question
Go ahead.
before we get going, just because I guess because I live in the outside world. I don't live in New Vrindavan, so I have to interact with,
Sure,
just like
of course.
typical Americans all the time, and they don't really understand this. And even though it makes sense to me, the concept is foreign to them. What can I do to kind of like to kind of get people on board, I think, with this peace formula? Because I do think the nationalism and the nationalist religio whatever
Mm.
is starting to really just poison people. So, what do you think? I mean, other than short of just bringing them into the kirtan center.
But that's the way Prabhupada started his movement. He said he didn't, no talking. You just come, you chant, you take some prasadam, and you go home. And then gradually you give them a little bit of philosophy. When you become a little purified, then, but he said that in New Vrindaban in 1976. He was talking to Kirtanananda because he had met him like 10 years earlier, in 1966. And he said, that's the way. This is the only way to start this movement is just to invite people. He said, who will not come? You have the chanting and it's joyful, and then you have nice prasadam, and there's no talking. You just do that, and
Mhm.
then you don't say, "Oh, don't do this, don't talk this way, don't." You have all these yama niyama, all these rules and regulations at the very beginning. He didn't say anything like that. So you just come, chant, and then go home.
Tell
And
me
then let
how long have you been connected with Krishna consciousness?
I believe it was December of 2024.
Uh-huh. So
December,
was
or wait, no, 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 no. It's been over a year. It's been like a year and a
right.
half now.
Mhm. And
So
you
December
chant you
2023,
chant
I
on the
think.
japa beads regularly?
Yeah.
Great. And
Yeah.
you ask about what you can personally do. So what I think one can personally do is to begin to purify themselves and to enter more and more into this service attitude, this loving devotion to Lord Krishna. You don't have to join an organization. That may help sometimes, but the thing is, find out from Prabhupada's literature and talk to devotees, purify yourself, and then Krishna will start giving you guidance from within your heart on how to conduct yourself with other people that you meet.
right.
That's the main thing.
Thank you,
I can't
Prabhuji.
tell you what to do or what to say, but I can only say begin more and more to accept the principles of Dharma and purify yourself. And Krishna is waiting to instruct you from within your heart.
Christ said the same thing, or his followers said, they asked him the same question. He said, what do we say, Lord, dear Master? What? And Christ said pretty much, you just open your mouth. I'm going to direct you what to say. You don't have to do anything except, pretty much surrender to me, and then I will tell you what to do. I mean, because Prabhupada said, I'm not presenting anything new. This is Bhagavad Gita as it is. We're simply presenting the Bhagavad Gita as Krishna spoke it, and we're not making anything up. We're not manufacturing anything. And so the philosophy is already there. All we have to do is repeat it. And that's what Lord Chaitanya's desire is. He said, Amar Guru, what is that verse? Just instruct everyone the instructions of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and try to make everyone in this land Krishna conscious. That was his order. So on his order, we do that. We don't make anything up. We don't concoct anything. We don't speculate. We just present what is already there. And then it's very simple that way. You don't have to worry about like what to say or what to do. Krishna in your heart, there's a Chaitya Guru in everyone's heart. And Krishna will give you the impetus to say anything and everything at the proper time and place. We don't even have to say anything. Sometimes the devotee is silent, and sometimes, like the rivers of the streams, they flow, and sometimes they don't flow. And sometimes they're silent, and sometimes they speak. But that is up to Krishna. Whatever he wants you to do, then you do it. And it
It-
doesn't matter where we are. You could be in hell, and we could be in heaven.
right.
The devotee's like a threshing machine. A threshing machine works the same. It threshes wheat, whether it's in hell or in heaven. So it doesn't matter where a devotee is, he's going to do the same thing.
Before we finish up, I'd just like to put in a plug for myself. If you're this is my website, mahabharat-project.com. And so if I've written a number of articles and if about many different how Krishna consciousness is relevant. Um, and the various concerns that people have. So some of those articles are on my website, as well as information about some books that I've written. And also, put out periodical articles on ISKCON News, maybe once a month, not that often. So I'm writing another book or two and writing articles. And if you want more information, you can go to mahabhartproject.com. So I think we've extended our time pretty well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us for the first time, Alyssa, and of course Sankirtan. He kind of like kicked this off. He said, "We want to do this once a week," and so we're going to have this format, just a discussion and then a question and answer at the end. And we'll talk about, like how to make Krishna consciousness relevant. Krishna consciousness is relevant. It's already relevant everywhere. Krishna is everywhere. He is everything, but
Mhm.
people just don't realize it. It's forgotten. Prabhupada, when he came to, I think, one airport, he said, "What have you come here to teach us?" And Prabhupada said, "I am coming to teach you what you've forgotten."
Mhm.
And so we have to remind people what we're here for, what the purpose of life is. And it's not our philosophy, it's coming from Krishna himself. So we
And
don't have
we
to have
each
to
have
memorize.
something special to offer.
Yeah, yeah,
We all have different propensities and different inclinations. And
yeah.
so uh, society is made up of a collection of people with different interests and maybe different little ways of thinking about the world, but we have to work together in Krishna's service.
Yeah, common cause. Because if you have that common cause, then you can work together. Otherwise, everyone's like doing their own thing. And you end up with the United Nations with 100 different flags in front of the building. And they're all fighting like cats and dogs. But if there's a common cause, then everybody can work for the benefit of the whole. And that's what's meant by Dharma, correct, Sankirtan?
Mhm.
So thank you so much for joining, and this is a good kickoff, I think, for this, and maybe we do this
I
every
think
week.
so.
That would be
And Shik, you can make an announcement in after the weekend about what we're going to be talking about in the following week, right?
yeah, and you can
You can
make some
decide, and we'll make an
suggestions
announcement.
as far as like it can do with it perhaps because it is the Vedic observers Shāstra-cakṣusā, it can be related to current events that are in the news cycle as well because Prabhupada, he was able to talk about anything. And
Hmm.
he said his spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati, he could speak on anything and any subject. And even his neophyte disciples, the big scholars, were afraid to talk to them because they could talk about anything. And we have to be like that as well. We should be able to talk about anything and everything and relate it to Krishna consciousness because Krishna consciousness is relevant. I love that moniker that you made up, like, how to make Krishna conscious relevant to the human society. It is already relevant, but just people just don't even realize that it is relevant,
Right.
right?
Anyways, we've gone well beyond our time.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
So
I'm going to end it here.
thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much for
much. It was
joining us.
such a pleasure. It was such a pleasure to meet you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Oh, you moved into
Thank you.
your little quad
This
house.
is a Woodstock handmade house.
Oh, cool.
Wow, that's amazing.
Because you're a hippie,
And you live in the Pittsburgh area?
Yeah,
right?
I do. I'm born and raised here. Yeah.
Right.
She's a Yinzer. She's a bona fide Yinzer.
Yeah, I'm from Greenfield.
Well,
Believe it or not.
take care of yourself.
Thank
Hopefully
you.
we'll
Hare Krishna.
I
Thank
hope
you.
to see you
Next
next
week.
time I go to New Vrindavan. Thank
yeah,
you.
ask for me, Sankirtan Das. Or if you go to my site, then you can drop me
Labarata.
an email and let me know when you're coming.
Okay. Okay, I will, sir.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Bye
Hare
bye.
Haribol, you
Krishna.
too. Thank you.
Hare
Hare Krishna, everybody.